We are in the festive season, and this is a time when everybody wants to enjoy themselves. They take their time to engage in various forms of enjoyment in terms of food and drink, hence the title of our episode today. Many people engage in different forms of enjoyment, which we look at and think taking alcohol and various other kinds of things like drugs and other kinds of indulgences. Pastor, what are drugs?
Thank you for that question. Drug is a broad definition of anything that when it's introduced to the body, it alters the normal function of the body. So from what we are discussing today, you will see that during the festive season, people engage in lots of things, from alcohol. They have traveled up country and they are meeting their new friends, their longtime friends. They are taking alcohol. Some of them will take the traditional liquor. Some of them who smoke will smoke more because at the time they are free. Those who chew miraa will sit with their friends longer because it's a holiday time. So the whole idea here is when we talk about drugs, we are looking at anything that when it's introduced to the body will change or alter the normal functioning of the body.
Do you have anything to add on that definition?
Well, what I'd add is that when he talks about altering, it's either it could make them get higher or it could take them a little lower. So suppose somebody is feeling, oh, I'm so excited, let me cool down. So they take a drug that will bring them down, or if they're solo, raise their spirits.
So I just wanted to find out, if you take drugs, must you be high? Because there's this high that everyone talks about. I want to be high. When you're happy, should you be high?
Well, the use of the word high is just a broad term. But you know, if you look at drugs in their classifications, not all drugs take somebody high. Some of them depress you. So maybe you're so excited, they bring you lower.
They take you low.
Yeah, they take you low. So not all drugs take you high. But the term used for that feeling is high. So it's just the use of the word, but not exactly the feeling that they get.
So what is drug abuse?
Drug abuse, I'd say, is the misuse of these drugs. He has said that a drug is any substance. So when you talk about drugs, that includes the prescription drugs, these others that people use, whether they are legal or illegal, all those are drugs. So drug abuse is the use of a drug for the use it was not intended for. Either you also use a lot or you use little. Suppose you are given a prescription drug and you are told to use it 2 times 3, you use it 1 times 3, that's drug abuse. Suppose you are told to do 2 times 3, you do 3 times 3, that's drug abuse. So drug abuse is simply the improper use of a drug, whichever way it is.
Yeah, and I normally say that abuse is like abnormal. Yeah, the prefix there is the ab will mean that you're not using it for the purpose which is intended for. Like she's mentioning the over-the-counter drugs that many people use without realizing actually they're abusing. Like many people, when they have a headache, they will easily go to the chemist to buy Panadol. Or if you're not able to sleep, it's very easy to go and buy Piriton so that you can be able to induce sleep. And so if you continue using Piriton to be able to go to sleep for a long time, then you're abusing the drug. You're actually a drug abuser. On the onset, we might look at only those people who are alcoholics or who are in the pubs or who smoke as the ones who are abusers. But you could see that there are those who use drugs secretly. Like I could go and buy Valium over the counter. Valium is prescribed for people who are who are psychotic, sorry. And if they take the drug consistently, then they are also abusing. Yeah.
Maggie has just talked about something, illegal and legal drugs.
Yes.
Do you have categories of drugs?
Yes, we do.
Please.
Drugs could be classified in so many classes. And I'd like to talk about these that you've already mentioned, that is legal and illegal. So when we talk about legal, it just means these are the ones that the state has approved. So legal drugs are as per country. So a drug may be legal in Kenya, but illegal in Uganda. It could be illegal in Uganda, but legal in Kenya. So simply, legal and illegal are those that the state, the particular state for this matter, has approved. And then the opposite is true. And then another classification could be drugs that we call hard drugs and soft drugs. So now that brings us to a more bigger term. And when we talk about the hard drugs, these are drugs that we say lead to physical addiction. And then soft drugs lead to psychological addiction. These are terms that we may need to explain a bit further. Yeah, but maybe he can give us some other categories before we go further.
But before Pastor just speaks, I just want us to get something very clear on the legal and illegal. Coming home locally in Kenya, what are the legal drugs that we have in Kenya and what are the illegal drugs?
Okay. The common examples of the legal drugs in the country include alcohol, tobacco, cat, that is mira, and its sister or cousin, mogoka. Then the illegal ones that we know of are things like marijuana, which unfortunately, though it's illegal, so many people use it. Then we have heroin, it's also illegal. We have cocaine, it's also illegal. And some other small ones like shisha that people may not know about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Margaret has already expounded deeply on that. The only thing that I would add is that in Kenya we use the word licit and illicit too, for illegal and illegal. So people talk a lot about the illicit brews that are not legal. And the other also thing that I would want to clarify is like there's been a big debate on whether cat or miraa is legal or not. In Kenya, it's legal. That's why you find that people can use it very freely. But over time, you've had some countries have mentioned that it's not legal. So the legality will also be determined by where. Like in a school situations, all the drugs are illegal. So young people, and the age factor also, like under 18, then you would find that a drug could be legal, like alcohol could be legal. But people, the age factor also is another variance that determines the legality of it. Like, although alcohol could be legal in Kenya, or then the under 18 using will be illegal. And also the other version that you can bring it further is whereby a Christian will also, or it could be legal, but once somebody is a Christian, then the legality aspect will also be, we'll get into it to see that is it okay for a Christian to drink or not to drink. Then the answer will be no, because of the Bible aspect. So the situation also, like the school situation, the church for a Christian will determine whether it's right or wrong, because the question of legal or illegal is right and wrong.
And before we leave that point, something else has come to my mind. Even when you talk about a legal drug, maybe like alcohol, not all alcohol is legal, even in the country.
True.
Yeah. You see, like the Kenya Bureau of Standards, the other time was saying that they have refused to legalize or to register these types that we're calling the second generation.
Oh.
So the alcohol we're talking about and calling legal is the first generation. Maybe we might need to clarify what first generation and second generation is. And the first generation, I'd say, is these that we have always known for a long time. Maybe these ones that are branded, you know, their manufacture is known, the ingredients are known, and everything about them is certified. But these that are being called second generation are these alcohol that are made somewhere there behind the what?
The streets.
Yeah, over there on the back streets, and then mostly they are made of ethanol and then water and flavors.
Oh.
And then they package them in the bottles of the legal ones, and then they sell them even to people who are unsuspecting. And that is why we've had a lot of instances of people drinking beer that they thought was legal, but they went blind. Yeah.
So on that note, I also just want this for the clarification of my viewer, because I know they have this question. There's this traditional brew. Where does it fall?
I like that you asked me with curiosity. Well, when I went to Kamagambo, when I was in college, I know there was a lot of talk around the community, and it was very normal for people to say that amarua was like porridge. And even in most cultures, communities will look at it with a very lenient if I may say, that it's, after all, it's porridge. And so I remember cases where, when I was doing my teaching practice, kids would come and say that they went home and there was no phone, so they were told, I mean, go take porridge and go back to school. So the society, as you're saying, are some myths, or that this is food, some alcohol or some alcoholic beverages, when they're prepared and they look like porridge, they could have nutritional value. Or they like wine, for the ladies, they would think that wine is soft class or softer. Yeah, yeah. So those are preconceived notions that lead people to engage into alcohol. But back to your question, what Margaret is saying about how alcohol is processed, how alcoholic beverages are prepared, will determine their purity, their toxicity, if I may say. And none of them, even when they are looking very soft, doesn't have an effect on the body or on the brain system. When they are adulterated, like Margaret was saying, in Kenya we have a lot of cases whereby people take alcohol or they take drinks that looked okay, but in the end of the day, they end up becoming blind. And the word here is mandege, you know. The street language is mandege. It's meaning that it's actually made from jet fuel. So they are calling it mandege because ni mafuta ya ndege. Yeah. So you can imagine if it can go to a point whereby jet fuel is being used to make alcohol, yeah, then it's highly toxic. And it's not only for those liquor, even other local brews from Amarua to Busa, they add different kind of things to make it more toxic, and so it's lethal. And members, viewers, if your neighbors are using, you better help them to understand what they are using.
Lately, it's been on the news, it's been everywhere, about children, high school students engaging in alcoholism, and especially in the central part of Kenya. We have homes that have stopped being run by the men because of the rate of alcoholism in the area. Could you give us some statistics, and then also tell us if it has become such a big thing in Kenya, alcoholism and its effects?
Thank you. It's according to the NACADA and the United Office of Drug and Crime Control. There is evidence that, for example, cannabis, which is banned, and it has many other street names from Ombido, which I was sharing with you earlier, and weed, bang, and everything else. Kenya, for example, is the second in East Africa for cannabis after Mauritius. And many high school students are using cannabis, for example. And the idea is that today there's a lot of information on internet, so they'll go down and go and check, and they'll come out with facts and tell you that, hey, look, it is some medicinal value. But the question is, are they able to control? So there are those myths again, like if you're doing sciences and you take a little bit of bang, then you're going to be sharper. All those things need to be dealt with. And of course, like for example, a study that was done in Kenyatta National Hospital, there was evidence that there are many clients who spend up to 7,000 when they've been admitted on accident related. Yeah, many of them who have been affected, and 95% of Kenyans are unaware of the effect of drug and substance abuse. 95% do not know.
Meaning almost the entire
Yes.
population doesn't know the effects of drugs. So it's quite clear to us that this is a topic that actually needs to be talked about.
Precisely. Yeah, precisely. You want to
Tell us something before we go to the break.
Well, yeah. There's a research that was also done by a movement that is called Global Temperance Movement, and which interviewed a number of people globally. And out of their findings, they found that 63% of the people they interviewed had used alcohol, And then 30% of them had more than 5 alcoholic beverages per sitting, which is a heavy episodic use. So this is a concept we call binge drinking, whereby, for example, I should drink maybe 1 beer in 30 minutes, but this person takes 5 in the 30 minutes. So you can see how much of beer they've consumed. Suppose now this person was to continue consuming it for maybe 3 hours. And then another thing that I found that was not very pleasing is that 30% of Kenyans, now coming to Kenya particularly, these Kenyans aged between 15 and 65 years have ever consumed alcohol in their lives, and 13.3% is at least 4 million people in the country, going by the recent census in the country. So imagine 4 million people in Kenya have tasted alcohol. And this research was done in 2012. Come to think of it, we are 4 years down the line. Haven't these people increased? Because look at the way the society is, social media, you know, taking alcohol is classy, what about it? You know, people are so idle. All we think about is just watching television with a lot of advertisements. There are lots of billboards. Everybody's talking about it, you know, our celebrities. So you can be sure these statistics are higher now.
Higher now.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the most prevalent drug currently in use in Kenya?
That one more or less goes without saying. It's alcohol. But even the statistics have proved so, because as I've said, 13.3% of the people in Kenya have used alcohol. In fact, not have used, are using, present continuous. And then comparing it with the other drugs, 9.1% are using tobacco. So you can see alcohol is higher. And then 1.0 are using marijuana or bang. These that has a lot of many pet names. Yeah. And then 0.1 are using heroin. So you can see the one that's highest is alcohol.
Actually, according to one study, also there's 16% for smoking, 28% for drinking, and then 13% for cannabis and 16% for other drugs. So still, alcohol takes it. Yes.
So now, alcohol abuse. I was asking myself, well, what are the effects of alcohol abuse? Yeah, how do we know that somebody has become an alcoholic? How does somebody get to the point that he's become an alcoholic?
Good question. The psychologists and counselors and addiction counselors have a Bible. It's not the Bible that I as a pastor use. It's called the DSM-5. It used to be DSM-4, but now it's DSM-5.
Yeah.
DSM-5 is a diagnostic manual for mental disorders. And it's what, if somebody has any disorder or any ailment that is mental or psychological, the reference that you can make to by turning the pages is that DSM-5. And it categorizes alcoholism as a disease of the mind. And understanding that it's a disease is a very important thing, because it helps us to kind of like realize if it's a disease, how do we deal with it? And so it's to know what are the onset effects of this disease, what are the long-term effects, because it's also a progressive mental or disease of the mind. Yes, so I think we would need quite a long time to kind of like share the what are the signs of the onset signs, the telltale signs of somebody who's using, and then what are the effects, the short and the long-term effects. Yeah.
Could we do it in a summary, like what are the effects? If we find we can skip the how to tell the onset, but what are the effects of alcohol
Good.
abuse?
Yeah, first, let's start from the head. Yeah. We said it's the mind. So it will interfere with the psychomotor, the functioning of the body. The mind will be interfered with, so that, you don't reason rightly, you find yourself not making the right decisions. For example, somebody will go to a pub wanting to take one bottle of alcohol, and they find themselves spending the whole night. That's a decision so your decision making, your judgment has been impaired. Yeah, you are not able to make the right decision. So from the mind. Then when you see that somebody, for example, is staggering after taking a bottle of liquor, then that means the psychomotor, the part of the brain that regulates coordination, has been interfered with. You can come down to the throat, the cancers of the throat. You can come down to the tummy, the cancers of the tummy, and the heart disease, cardiomyopathy or cardiomyopathy. All these are diseases that are internal. Yeah. So that's why I was saying that it's something that we need to look at very carefully to see how are these effects, that are some of them short term. Like when I just take one bottle, there's an effect that will be a short term effect, and when I continue to use, there's an effect that will be a long term effect that will actually need medication and treatment.
Thank you very much. We are moving on to the break, but from the break we're going to talk about what you actually told us about. Kenya is the second biggest user of bang in East Africa, or it's Africa?
It's in Africa.
Africa,
Yes.
Second biggest user of bang in Africa.
Yes.
You will delve much on the matter. Stay tuned, don't touch that dial. We'll get back. Welcome back, viewer. Before we move on, you had something to say about the effects of alcohol, Maggie. Please tell us.
Oh, yes. I like the points that he raised about the effects of alcohol. But you know, before they take effect, most of us may not notice. And so we might be thinking that this alcohol has no effects. So I'd like us to narrow down to these things that we always see on a daily basis. The effects of alcohol, such things like, when somebody takes alcohol, as you say that their judgment is impaired, but how does it present itself? You see somebody walking, and then they think the ground is this high, but it's down there. So how do they walk? You can imagine, yeah? And then the other thing, they see you as 5 people, so they'll come greeting you, but you're here. Then the other thing is that these people become dirty and sloppy. They don't care where they sleep. Appetite is lost. You know, this person just doesn't even know where, okay, he doesn't know his responsibilities. So as you were saying, it has become that now the norm of the society is that most women are the breadwinners, because these men have gotten lost into alcohol abuse. So such are the effects that I wanted us to talk about, because people may think that the ones he mentioned are the ones that shall come. But there are these small things that happen, and they affect us very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Now we want to go to the thing I really love to hear about. Kenya being the second, Kenya has the second largest population of bang consumers in Africa.
Yes.
That is one statistic that I don't think will rub off my mind very soon. Pastor, please tell us more about it.
Well, it's happens that in Kenya, and I think Margaret and alluded to it, that alcohol is on the top. After alcohol, there's tobacco. Tobacco in whichever of its form. Yeah, whether it's the cigarette, whether it's the kubera, I think that was mentioned, whether it is the shisha that is becoming so common. And then after in that line, after alcohol, there is tobacco, and then bang, or marijuana. And there's been earlier, there was a debate whether are people using more cat or miraa than bang. But because of the recent studies and the media change, many young people are finding marijuana or bang to be very swaggish, or rather very nice thing to do. And so high schoolers and young adults are all shifting to using bang, which is also a very insidious drug that you cannot know. Why? Because I can cocktail it. I can be having a packet of cigarettes, and I can remove the tobacco and put the bang inside, and all that you see is that I'm carrying a packet of cigarette. I can also brew it. Some of the people are brewing it and using it with tea, Yeah, so they are the ganja cookies, which are biscuits that people are selling on the streets, and so what you just see is people are selling biscuits. So you don't really get concerned about it. I have had people in schools who say that samosas. People come selling samosas, and in those samosas, they're laced with bang. So bang has become a very easy to use drug in the Kenyan scenario.
Another thing I'd like to add is this. From my observation, I don't know if you've seen something different, is that when you look at the people who use bang mostly are these young people. And one thing they say about bang is that bang, unlike alcohol, makes you clean.
Yes.
So they're like, even if I use it, I'm not dirty.
Yes.
I become spiritual. You want me to read my Bible, to pray? I will do that. So bang is loved because it makes people, get to another class. It's not like these are the drugs that make us dirty and I don't know what have you. We are at loggerheads with our parents. No. In fact, it makes us look exactly what they want us to be like.
A Christian drug.
Yes, yes.
I think, Maggie, you are hating it. Because I've counseled with some clients, honestly, who tell me, Pasi, unajua kuna kitu nyinyi mtuambiagi kwa Bible. Auliza nini hiyo mzee? Ambia, unajua weed ni holy.
Yes, they call it so, yes.
Ni holy. Hata sa God, alipoumba Adam na Eve, aliwapatia kitu wasikule. Sababu akikula ndio watafunguka macho. Now I think so they actually theologize, if I may say, that weed is a holy herb.
Yes.
Yeah,
They call it a herb.
It's a holy herb, and then because it's also a religion, the Rastafari lifestyle, like Margaret is saying, is a religious, with music that goes with it, and it's not a dirty, as he's saying. But the other thing that I also want to say, the spiritual aspect, whereby they bring spirituality into it, which is something that we need to watch, where they say that, I remember counseling with a client who was telling me that, unajua mimi nikichoma madom zangu hivi, hiyo smoky pande hivi tunajua gona nasikia hizo prayers. Yeah. So for him it's a religious, it's a religious thing. That they are connecting with God, and true, they start to hallucinate and hear things. True to the word, that as they take it for a long time, they start to see things. Colors become brighter because of the mind has been interfered. So they actually live in a world of their own.
Yeah, and they say that they become very kind.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So this Ombito thing, Pastor, you call it Ombito. What are the effects of bang?
Yeah.
We've talked about the positive effects that
they talk about,
the
yes.
holy herb, yeah. What are the effects? What are the negative effects it has on the?
Please, we didn't talk about the positive effect. We said they are the presumed as positive.
Actually, yeah.
Because even in high school, and it's good for us to correct this, because I know there are young people who are viewing, there are parents who are viewing this program, that there's that myth, like if you smoked weed or bang, you become a scientist. You understand mathaf more than other people. So those myths need to be corrected, because I have met cases of a student who went to write an exam after smoking and they forgot their name. Yeah. So that's how bad. That nobody viewer, or even the parents, convince you that when you smoke weed, you're going to become brighter or more intelligent, or do more math or science better than the others. So, did you wanted to share about some of the effects of weed, of bang?
Yeah. Well, apart from what my colleague has said, is that bang brings a lot of hallucinations, and hallucinations are effects on our perception. So if I'm supposed to see something that's there, okay, I'll either not see it, or I'll see something that's not there. I'll hear a sound that's not there. I'll taste a taste that's not there. I'll even feel something that's not there. So you find that with bang, it brings a lot of hallucinations. And that is, as he's shared an experience, I also shared with a client who was informed too, and he was reading for his examinations. And the funny thing that he told me that I really laughed about, sorry, I laughed and I shouldn't have, but it was funny, is that he was telling me when he read, he was like, this book, you're not telling me the truth. He's the one who had written the notes on that book, but he read it and was like, these things you're telling me are not true. And what did he do? He tore it and threw it out.
He shredded the book.
Yeah. because of
Yeah. And I'm happy that Margaret's bringing the hallucination part, because it's one of the key, unlike other drugs, that there's an altered sense of time. Yeah. Because hallucination is a perception of things that are not there. You see them, you feel them, you smell them, you sense them. And so there's that altered coordination, like even the coordination, the body coordination, you're not able to coordinate properly. Sijui kama umeona mzee wa banga ambaye anakula angle fulani, they walk with a certain with a certain angle and a bounce. Yes, all those are kind of like effects that are coming to the brain. And even when you look at the anxiety, the panic, they are always on a panic mode. Like if you confronted them, you'd see them turn. The women also are using, because many people think that this is only men. Those women who used, the effect could be like preterm babies, where children are born before the right time. The men have reduced testosterone, the male hormone, whereby you find that they will tend now to behave like women sometimes, in the way they dress, in the way they act, and this is some of these are not reversible, and that's why we are saying that it becomes a building block to depression, and anxiety disorders, and even psychosis or drug-induced psychosis. Somebody will start with this behavior, but it builds with time, and you find them now behaving actually like lunatics.
And another thing that we need to mention about almost all drugs, in fact, I guess they're all of them, lack of appetite. So with increased use of the drug, somebody loses taste for food. So if you give them food and the drug, they choose the drug over food. And then they continue like that, and their health ultimately deteriorates. And that is one thing that makes them to die faster. Yeah, because now they're using the drug and not eating. Yeah.
From here, we're going to move to the second most used drug in Kenya, tobacco. And with the craze that is going on around, I'm seeing people putting their photos on social media with this shisha. Is it shisha? Yeah. Yes. And they think it's so cool. People are taking live videos and placing them on Facebook. You know, nowadays you can go on Facebook Live with the smoke billowing up the clouds. So, well, we're going to get to that. Thank you very much. My dear viewer, do not go away. We're going to a break. During the break, you will watch a testimony from a recovering drug abuser. Do not touch that dial.
Welcome to this interview. We are gonna be having one of our brothers. He is Taylor Cantrell, and he's going to share about, remember we are talking about drugs, and he has done much of this and he has a better understanding. That's why we have him on set today to help us understand all about drug abuse. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, now, first of all, you are in the country. You are from the US. Share with us, why are you here?
I am from a town called Fresno, California. It's about right in the center of the big valley, the Central Valley in California. And I've been working for the last probably 2 years, seriously working in video production with my father, his video production company that he works with companies like Adventist World Radio or Hope Channel or 3ABN, et cetera, et cetera. He works for whoever needs him at the time.
Producing programs for different TV stations?
Yeah, anybody who he likes to do documentaries and work for the church. So usually programs that
And I understand that you are the ones who have been behind the AWR features and the Hope Channel ones with Brother Jim.
Yeah, he has. I haven't been on any of the Making Waves programs, but I've been working with Jim on this series where we're doing Adventures in Hope, where it's, as long as that's still the title of the program, but where we're doing this program and we're getting stories from all around the world at how Hope Channel has connected with people and changed their lives.
Now, you are here because you told me that you have had quite an experience with the drugs. And it's a problem that is affecting the whole world, not only here in Kenya. You know, we have people's lives are being spoiled just because of doing drugs. And, you know, everything is good, but if done in moderation, and some things, you know, we must always think that God had a reason why he created some things, but now we tend to misuse them. So that's the term drug abuse. Now, could you tell us your experience about drugs? How did you first start?
Well, before I started doing any actual like hard drugs or anything illegal, it started with cigarettes. I smoked my first cigarette when I was about 15, and I totally did not like it. I thought it was gross. And then through more problems going on in our family and everything, I wanted to find something to relieve stress. And a year later, I started smoking more regularly. So I was smoking cigarettes every day, probably about 25 cigarettes a day, so more than a pack. And that went on for
you
about...
mean you were a chain smoker?
Yeah. So about...
At
I would
15
finish...
years?
Yeah, I would finish a cigarette and then probably wait about 8 or 10 minutes before I had another one. So then it was just like that all day. Cigarette,
You
cigarette,
turned
cigarette.
Your breathing system, especially the nose, as a chimney
Yeah.
to release smoke.
Exactly. I was a fireplace. So... So it started with the cigarettes, and then, you know, when I was about 16, 17, I got introduced to marijuana for the first time. And, you know, I that was the first time I ever felt myself go out of being sober. You know, I had never drank, really. I had tasted alcohol, and I thought it was disgusting. I didn't like it. But the first time I smoked marijuana was the first time I felt, not sober. So... It was absolutely world-changing for me, because it was most of the days that I was worried or stressed out about my family's issues, or, you know, my parents fighting, or me and my brother fighting about our parents fighting, things like that. I could go and smoke marijuana, and it's not that the problems disappeared, because it obviously did nothing for me to just smoke marijuana, but for me, it pushed the problems to the back of my mind. Because it just becomes, well, I feel really good right now. You know, before I smoked, I didn't feel so good because I was thinking about these things. And so when I smoke...
It's kind of you're postponing your problems.
Exactly. You're putting a timer on it.
They are not there.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a time bomb.
Yeah. So you keep pushing them off and not dealing with anything. And eventually you either... because the problems don't just go away.
Yeah.
You know, problems have to be dealt with. And with me,
in fact, they double.
Yeah.
They double.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for me, I was trying to remove myself from the problems, because I knew that the problems would keep continuing. And if I'm over here, or if I'm high, or if I'm whatever, that I'm no longer in the problem.
Yeah.
Even though I absolutely was. But in my mind, what I felt is, okay, well, that's something separate now.
That.
Yeah. So through the years, you know, I smoked marijuana very frequently. And when I was 21 years old, I actually, you know, through the years, my parents had said, you know, you need to stop smoking cigarettes. It's so unhealthy, because we have a family member that smoked cigarettes for almost 40 years. And we've seen what it's done to him, and how many times he's tried to quit, and how badly he wants to quit, but he's so latched on by cigarettes that it's just next to impossible.
Yeah.
So for me, I had smoked cigarettes for 5 years, over a pack a day, and then, you know, my family saying, you should quit, it's not healthy, look at, you know, what happened to your uncle and everything like that. So it eventually became that I had to just stop. You know, I told myself in my head, the only way you're going to stop this before it becomes unstoppable is if you stop now. The best time to quit is yesterday. The second best time is right now. Yeah. So in my mind, I had to tell myself, I, Taylor, am not a smoker. I don't smoke cigarettes. Each time I smoke a cigarette, I'm not being who I am. And that mental connection and strength from God is what got me through the days where I wanted to do nothing but find a cigarette and smoke it. But I kept telling myself, wait, I'm not a smoker. That's not who I am. So And, you know, I had quit cigarette smoking, but I was still smoking marijuana every day. Like, it was no issue because they're so different. But, you know, after I had quit smoking cigarettes, I was working in construction for a while. I was doing pipe fitting, so I would put piping in buildings and everything like that. And I got laid off because it's a construction job. That happens very often. When the job is finished, you don't have a job. So I told myself, hey, I know quite a bit about marijuana. I know how to grow it. I know how to sell it. I've been in sales a lot. So maybe I could do something with that. And in the southern part of California, there's a town called Santa Barbara. There's a very big college there, UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And I had always thought Santa Barbara was beautiful because we used to live close to there. So I told myself, you know, might as well do what I want to do and be where I want to be. So I just basically cut off everything where I was living and moved down to Santa Barbara. I just took me and my truck and everything I owned and just drove down to Santa Barbara without any connections.
You had a truck by this time?
Yeah.
Your own?
Yeah, and I didn't know anybody in Santa Barbara, and I just told myself, go do it. You know, if it's going to work, you're going to make it work. And I wasn't at all interested, or I didn't try to ask God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I was just saying, this is what I need to do because I know how to do it. So I went.
You wanted to go with your feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what I feel I want to do. So now you've decided that I want to get into drug dealing business. Is it really legal to trade in marijuana in that state?
In California, the way it works is for you to get marijuana, you have to be prescribed it by a doctor.
Because it's medicine sometimes.
Yeah, it's medically legal in California. It's not recreationally legal. So not anybody could just go and get it. But in California, the types of people, the types of doctors that write the prescriptions for it, that's all they do all day. They don't actually do much doctoring. They don't, you know, treat people for a broken foot. They just sit in their office all day, wait for people to come in, and they ask them maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then it's like, okay, here's your prescription for marijuana. Have a good day. Next, you know. So it's like an assembly line where they're just getting more and more people prescribed marijuana by a doctor.
And you know, it's so easy to have an excuse. If I want to do marijuana, then I can easily say, you know, I'm having this pain that is so persistent and it's very painful. Doctor, could you please prescribe for me marijuana? Don't you think it's like we've opened a leeway where people can give excuses and continue doing marijuana?
Oh, absolutely. When I was getting my prescription for marijuana in California, I went into the doctor's office, and they have the paperwork that you would normally fill out at a doctor's office, like your name and your address and everything like that. And then you flip the page over, and it says, there's all these lists of problems, and there's check boxes next to each one, and it says, please check the boxes that apply to your symptoms and check no more than 4. But you have more than 100 options, and you just say, oh, I've had a headache before.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had trouble sleeping before. Oh, I have anxiety. You know, it's little things like that where it's like you don't actually have to prove that any of those things happened.
No
you just
medical
say,
test?
yeah, no medical tests at all. I mean, it's literally a mark on a piece of paper, and the doctor believes it, and then you hand it to them, and they write your prescription.
So you go down there and you decide, Santa Barbara, that I want to do this business. How did it go after that?
Santa Barbara is completely full of college students.
Yeah.
Like, in UC Santa Barbara, there was over 8,000 students, and in the community college, there was over 3,000 students. So most of those students are around my age and probably in the same types of attitudes about marijuana. So they were all totally on board. And I, knowing how to do sales jobs, I was very good at making myself look appealing as a shop. So I'd say, order from me, and the more you order, the cheaper it'll be for you. Or if you order so much, I'll give you a discount, or, you know, things like that got more people to come. And then they would tell their friends, oh, hey, order from this guy, he's great, you know. So up at the height of the business, every single day I would drive to 45 or 50 different homes or apartments.
You mean?
And for each sale, at each place I would have a sale for marijuana that each person would probably order $45 upwards to $300. So that's what 4,500 shillings
Yeah.
to upwards of 180,000 shillings.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, there were
Then that is 4,500 up to, you know, for different locations.
yeah,
More than
at
40?
each time.
Each time.
Each time I stopped somewhere, I would make 4,500 shillings at least, because there was a minimum. I say, you can't call me unless you have at least $45 to spend.
Oh.
And so every person that called was at least $45, if not more. And sometimes it was much, much more. There were many times that I've been to people and they'd hand me $1,000 and I'd hand them, you know, what they had ordered.
That was a lucrative kind of business.
Yeah.
And I know that now that you are getting so much money in that kind of business, it's pretty much difficult to quit, you know.
At the end of every day, because I would drive to all these places, I would have a stack of cash on me that was literally so big I couldn't grab it with both hands. It would have to be like this, and I would crush it together and walk into my house and take it and then count it all out and sort it out and then go through the next days. But yeah, literally every day I had a stack of money that was too big for a rubber band. So it was more money in cash than I'll probably ever see ever again.
Yeah.
You know, and it was every single day.
You know, I don't want anybody to think that, you know, this, in as much as you are getting a lot of money, you know, we have to really be plain that it's not the kind of business that we want to do.
No, absolutely
because
not.
You have been there. You did quit, and you have your own reasons, which you are going to explain to us. And but before we get there, tell us now, you know, you've started this business, you're making quite plenty of money. You have, you know, all these people that buy from you, they order from you each and every day, you get all this kind of money. How did it appear in your mind? Did you ever think that maybe I'm spoiling the people, or was your business just making money?
For me, while it was going on, when it was at the height of the business that I was so busy, I almost didn't have time to think about, you know, my opinion on the business, because I was so, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, there's so much to do today, and then at the end of the day I just count the money and go to sleep and then repeat. But there were other days where, you know, it would slow down and I would think, you know, right now I'm waiting for somebody to want weed, and then they'll call me, and then I just jump at the chance. So it's really, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm basically the car. You know, it's like if
channel.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I'm just the middleman between things. I'm not actually a person that's doing things. You know, if they could, they would order it through a machine and it would come out, you know, like a vending machine.
Yeah.
But I was basically their vending machine. And I didn't like that feeling of, you know, if I was gone, somebody else would just come in and do the exact same thing and nobody would notice any difference, you know, because they're still getting what they want. Yeah. It's just a different face.
Okay. Now, in a quick way, how did you quit?
The thing that made me quit was I would deliver to so many people so often that I got to know them. You know, I would kind of converse with them and everything, but it would go from, I would deliver to somebody in their house, and they lived in a nice house, they had a nice car, they were doing well, and I would deliver to them very, very often, and then eventually I started delivering to them at another address. And I would go to that address, and I'd show up, and it's not their house, but I go inside, and I would see blankets on a couch, and then they'd go, oh, okay, hold on one second, let me grab it. And their new home was someone else's home on their couch.
With a friend.
Yeah, they're living with a friend now because they've spent so much money on weed through me that they can't afford to pay their rent. And it went from, you know, them in their house with their car to living with a friend, sleeping on their couch, to me delivering to them in a park in Santa Barbara because they were sleeping outside. But they still wanted to order from me because they say, oh, you have what I want. So here's the money that I was able to scrape together today because I can still get high. And to me, watching somebody absolutely destroy their life because of the service that I'm offering was enough of a mark where I'm just, okay, I can't do this. You know, I realize that it's their decision to make, and even if I'm not here, someone else will do it, but I'm not going to be the person that helps you do it.
You are not going to facilitate.
Yeah, no.
Their downfall.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you decided that I'm going to get out of business. Was it easy?
The thing that was hardest about getting out of business is when people wanted to order, there was a website, and they would basically put their order in, and then a text message would pop up on my phone with their address and everything, so I'd go do that. So when I was going to quit, I just deleted the website.
Oh.
But people still had my phone number, you know, so they were constantly calling.
Your phone number?
Well, not until a couple months later, but, you know, in the time that I still had the same phone number, I would still get 20 to 30 phone calls a day.
That's a temptation.
Of people saying, hey, I've got $400, I need, you know, some weed, are you around? And to me, that was going to be probably $250 in my pocket. But it was just, no, I'm sorry, I quit, I'm out of here. And most people got angry. You know, they were like, oh, you're stupid. How could you get rid of that? You know, you were doing great. And I'm like, sorry, I quit. And they just, you know, throw some insults at me and then hang up the phone. And it's like, okay, so I guess we were never really friends then, you know? So those kind of things would make some people feel bad about it. But for me, it made it even easier to quit, because it's like, if that's how you really think about it, then you don't need me.
Yeah.
You know?
True.
So, and I'm going to go do what I want to really do, rather than what I needed to do to make money at the time.
Now, there are people who are watching you, as we get to summarize this because of time. There are people who are watching you, and, you know, some of them, maybe they are business people, they do these drug things. There are those who smoke, there are those who do marijuana and cocaine and all these things. What would be your message to them as you look at them in the camera?
My message to anyone who was living the same life I was living just a few years ago is that at the time it seemed like that was going to be the best times of my life, that I would make more money than I ever would ever again. But now I'm working in different countries across the world, and I'm filming these incredible stories because of the transformation God had on my life. So I went from selling drugs every day to almost 100 people to now I get to fly a camera above all these beautiful places around the world, and I get to see the world that God has created for us. So the main message there is that just because you think you're in the best times of your life, you have no idea what God has in store if you just let Him do what He's going to do.
So we have to solve our problems, not try to evade them. Do away with drugs. Let's not abuse drugs. Thank you very much for watching.
Welcome back. We were talking on the topic of tobacco. Please tell us, Maggie, shortly, what is tobacco? And you know, the craze of shisha. Is shisha tobacco?
Yes.
Yeah. Just tell us about tobacco and tobacco abuse in Kenya.
Well, tobacco abuse in Kenya is the second most prevalent drug. And now that you've mentioned shisha, let me first of all talk about it. You know, shisha is not the traditional tobacco, because you know tobacco are those leaves you take and you dry them and then you roll them in maybe a newspaper and then you smoke. That is the very traditional, or these ones that now we think are classy, you know, sportsman that has a filter. The advertisement comes with a king-size filter just to attract the smoker. But shisha is a new type of tobacco that came along to attract ladies. Because, you know, the traditional tobacco is thought of to be for men. You know, it's a bit hard. So shisha is flavored tobacco. So it comes in different flavors, maybe strawberry, maybe vanilla, maybe passion, so that when you smoke, you know, the smoke doesn't smell as bad. And then what is the caption? It came saying that if you smoked shisha, you'd lose weight.
Oh.
And you know the way girls we struggle with weight? Then you tell me I lose weight by just smoking something. Won't I do it? And that is how shisha caught a lot of our young girls.
It has ice cream flavors. I've heard you
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Strawberry.
Yeah.
So
those
smoking
flavors.
something that tastes like ice cream is quite cool. Huh?
Yeah, it's quite
That's
cool, especially for the girl child.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's not only tobacco that is smoked. We need to clarify that. There are people who smoke even heroin. There are people who smoke bang or cocaine, and even many others. But those are the main ones.
So quickly take us through the effects of smoking.
The effects of smoking. One thing is that your breath is bad. Your teeth become brown. Then their eyes are red. Then also something that looks funny is that you find that people who smoke have burns on their clothes. So you'll find somebody in a very nice coat, but it has a burn. Then these people also lack appetite. Then there's the likelihood of contracting lung cancer. There's also, if it's a woman, she might, if she's pregnant or lactating, the child, if she's pregnant, the child might be born preterm, or the child may be underweight. And then it is also a cause of shorter lifespan because of these many effects, and then even passive smoking. So when I smoke, I affect not only myself, but even the people around me. So that is, in fact, the worst bit of it, because people go smoking wherever they want, they don't care. So it affects so many people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pastor, there's this myth. The Bible says, 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23. A little wine is good for the stomach.
Yes.
And also in the Bible, at the wedding of Cana, what did Jesus do? He made a miracle. He turned water into wine. How do I defend myself that this wine is not the same wine? I can take vodka, it's good for my stomach. Just a little.
In our previous episodes, we talked about adulterated drinks, and I think Maggie was very passionate about it.
Yeah.
That the way alcohol is prepared and fermented will determine its toxicity. How liquor is done will determine the process of distillation, for example, will determine how hard or soft. I think those are the ones that we started off, the alcohol is. And the effects are similar also, depending on the process. That's why you find, like in Kenya, chang'aa is regarded as a high intoxicating alcohol. Now, back to the Bible, when we find that the Bible is saying in 2 Timothy 5 verse 23 that a little alcohol, take a little alcohol for it's good for your stomach. And I think it's good for me to read that because I love the Bible. Because when the Bible says it, it's good for us to say, does the Bible really say it? This is 2 Timothy chapter 5, First Timothy 5:23. 1 Timothy 5:23. There we are. Yeah, it's Paul. Paul who is advising Timothy, and he tells him, drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, and thine other infirmities, and even the other ailments that you might have. Now, number one, when you take alcohol, it actually causes your stomach ulcers and cancers of the stomach. So fact number one is that from the scientific point of view, there is no way when you take alcohol it's going to make your stomach. Instead, it's going to ulcerate it even more. Number two is that during Christ's time, the wine was determined by fermentation. So in the Greek word, the one used here is oinos, which is unfermented grape juice.
Oh,
yes.
Grape juice.
Yes. So the fermented one was actually not encouraged to use. And this ties up with the wedding in Cana that you're saying about. Christ didn't go and preserve that wine. He just, although it was a miracle, he just made it and people drank. It was not stored anywhere. So technically what you're saying is that after fermentation, the alcohol has an effect on the stomach, which is negative as opposed to the health that people use. And lastly, science is showing that when you take grape juice or unfermented grape juice, then it's able to help clear the stomach, and it's medicinal if we take it for when it's unfermented.
Thank you very much. Now we have it clear. It's fermented grape juice.
Unfermented.
Unfermented grape juice. Okay, that is very clear. So now, watching the advertisement, we have advertisements running on television, and our children are all so crazy. Bira imara kama simba. You want to be as strong as a lion. If you take this, you're going to be as strong as a lion. How do we manage this social learning cycle? Maggie, please.
Well, what I'd say is that, first of all, the parents have a role to play in this. So first of all, this parent has to limit the extent or the exposure of the television to their children, because most of these children see these things because they're just left to watch the television as much as they want. And then this parent also needs to explain to this child, you know, using the age-appropriate language to this child, that this is not good, and explain until the child can understand. And then these social media and the billboards that are on the road, which we cannot exactly control, that is why the parent has to be there to educate this child, because truth of the matter is they'll still see.
Pastor, what age do you think is appropriate to start telling the child about drug addiction and how not to get into drugs?
As early as possible. Actually, as early as they start to watch TV, because you can see in a common scenario in most of the homes, we're sitting watching the news, and an interlude of black for Pilsner comes, Guinness, I mean, yes, comes when you're watching news. So it's good to start to educate them as early as possible. And remember, age 7 is when they are even more vulnerable. Nakanda studies show that children are drinking as early as 7 years. So like Maggie, I say that the parent need to take an active role in educating their children, and also by being role models. Yeah, but I have had cases where parents are using and they expect the children not to use. And also the eateries. It's becoming very, very posh in Kenya to take your children out to a place where people are eating and drinking without realizing that those children the children are actually borrowing. It might not be the father who is modeling, but they are borrowing it from some other guy out there who looks, he has a good family, so they will think that to be successful, that's the way to go.
Another thing, the education system in the country is very strenuous of late. And our children may not have the very best of coping mechanisms. And most of them, or some of them, would opt to take these drugs so that they can cool down or at least relax. So parents need to look for ways in which they can teach their children on ways to cope with this stress. But also our government should reduce on, should look into this whole thing, because nowadays children have a lot of assignments, a lot of homework that is eating them up, such that they don't even have a time to play and get rid of that extra energy. And then they also don't learn stress coping mechanisms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as we are headed to the festive season, my viewer right there would like you to talk to them. I want to start with you, Maggie. Look straight to your camera and tell my viewer, what vices should I engage in? How would I enjoy myself this holiday if you're telling me all these things that I'm doing are...
Well, what I'll tell the viewer is that I'd like to use this statement that my clients like to tell me, pombe siyo supu. So if you want to enjoy, drink soup, not alcohol. Yes.
Thank you very much, Pastor. It is your turn now.
I like festive season because families get to meet together and eat and share time. And so my encouragement to the viewer is that go home and celebrate with your family. But if you can just eat without alcohol, it will be better and more fulfilling and more enjoyable. It's possible to have fun without alcohol and other drugs that people are using during the festive.
Thank you very much.
And also, before I forget, make sure you go to church.
They should not forget the person who brings in all the food that they're going to enjoy this festive season.
You can go to church and celebrate.
Yes. Well, Viewer, thank you very much for spending time with us today. We have gone through the festive vices, but we haven't finished this topic. We know we're going to give you another topic on the same, so just don't go away. Always spend time. Remember, Health Watch is with you this festive season.